Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Jeff, aka GCurse. You'll notice I'm doing things a little differently today. Usually I'll start with a fade in or some sort of graphics intro, but in this case, that didn't feel right. I wanted to be right here face to face with you because we're talking about someone who was a pillar of his community for nearly 80 years. George Owens was a husband for 60 years. He was a minister. He was also a neighbor. And in 1985, he simply vanished. When someone is born in 1905, like George was, the math tells us here in 2026, at 121 years old, that George is simply no longer with us. But that's exactly why I'm here with you today. Because as our family members and our neighbors get older, they become more vulnerable. They need us to help keep an eye on them more than ever. George was so important to so many people, yet his story ended on a remote hilltop in Perry County with more questions than answers. By skipping the produced opening, I want to focus entirely on him. He deserves our full attention. He deserves for his story to be told one more time. Join me as we view another case from Unsolved Mysteries in this installment of Unsolved Mysteries Commentary. Ever since my mom has passed away, this case helps me realize that we don't appreciate what we have till it's truly gone. I always thought that my mother, she was going to be here, into her, triple digits. And sadly, it was not like that. I thought that, I thought that, she was going to hit that nice retirement age and that she was going to have the life that she always wanted to have. She wanted to retire and be able to go see the country. Sadly, that did not end the way that she hoped. And because of this, I feel that I was not there as much as I should have been for her. This is something I am always going to have to deal with until the day I die. And every time I think about the case of George Owens, it makes me think of my mother because of the fact that we truly don't know how long we have on this planet. What we are about to watch is from the lost era of Unsolved Mysteries. That's what I call it. Basically, it is a case that FilmRise has struck from their streaming platforms. You will never see this on YouTube. You will never see this on Amazon. The only way you can actually see a case like this is if somebody like myself does a commentary on it. Which is sad because this case has never been solved, and yet FilmRise continues to remove cases that honestly deserve to have their conclusion be told. But let's get to the case, shall we? Okay, the video is up. Let's get started, shall we? 3, 2, 1.
Jesus died on Calvary.
George Owens was probably the last person in the world you would expect to disappear. For more than 20 years, he was the associate minister of the New Hope Baptist Church in Nashville, Tennessee.
It really is kind of jarring that somebody who is, a member of the community like this, that they can just instantly disappear like that in the blink of an eye. I think it would be one thing if sadly he was a victim of, like, say, a traffic accident, like he was crossing a street and sadly he was hit and killed that way. I think it's because we would actually know that sadly he, that what ultimately we would know what his fate was. However, when he initially disappeared, we have nothing. We still don't know what exactly happened to him. My worst fear is that ultimately George Owens, I personally feel that he had a stroke. He got disorientated he had a bad fall, and ultimately wherever he landed, my fear is that he was actually still alive when after that fall, and he ended up passing away alone and afraid.
His congregation lavished him with affection and praised him as a respected, upstanding citizen who never missed a Sunday service.
That alone should tell you that he, if he is this dedicated to what he does, him disappearing is out of the norm. And honestly, like I said in my in the coming soon promo post on YouTube, basically he was somebody who was always reliable until the day that he was not. And honestly, I think we take advantage of people like that. We don't really know that they're gone until they stop showing up.
The mystery surrounding George Owens began in July of 1985 when his wife Aileen traveled to Ohio to visit her niece. During 67 years of marriage, it was one of the few times that George and Aileen had been apart. As it turned out, they would never see each other again. At 6:30 a.m. on July 22nd, 1985, Aileen returned to Nashville as scheduled. George had arranged to meet her at the bus station, but he never arrived. Aileen waited for an hour before phoning her brother-in-law, Alfred Owens.
I can't help but wonder if this happened today. I think with the abundance of like video cameras everywhere, I don't think somebody like George Owens could just disappear like he did back in 1985. I think with, the advent of social media and everything, I would like to think that after a couple hours, George Owens could have been located.
When I got the call from the bus station from her, I told her that I would pick her up, and I called him, and he wasn't at home, and I picked up and carried her home.
When she got there, she told me, she said, the moment I stepped in the garage and his car wasn't there, I knew something was wrong. I didn't know what it was, but I knew something was wrong.
Alfred, here's 2 place settings.
I want to know where is it?
This makes me think that he had plans on making her a meal once they got back from the bus station. Like I said, I think I said in the opening that I believe he had a stroke. I'm wondering if the stroke actually started to. I'm not sure. I've never had a stroke, or anything. I'm not sure if if there are strokes that are like a gradual buildup, or if there are strokes that literally just hit you like right out of nowhere. I'm wondering if. Let's see here. Let's actually do some research, shall we? This is what I love about doing these types of videos. I get to do research. Okay, let's do this. There you go. Can strokes build up over time? Yes, strokes can build up over time. Atherosclerosis, a condition that leads to a stroke, involves the buildup of plaque in the arteries, which can cause strokes. So, going by what this says, okay, let's do this. So, going by what that said, it is possible, it sounds like, that maybe that's what happened to George Owens. Now, that's just my theory. I'm not a doctor or anything. But I think that possibly the onset started when he was either leaving or when he was setting this up. He possibly, had an idea what he was going to do. And without knowing what was actually happening to him, he just carried on through his day until it kept going until the point that it literally took, that it started impeding his memory. And that's when he started getting lost and everything. I'm wondering if that's how the day started for him.
Alfred immediately contacted the authorities, but an investigation turned up nothing.
Oh, Bill?
Then 6 days later, George Owens' car was found abandoned on a remote rural hilltop, more than 100 miles from his home. There was no evidence of a struggle or foul play. The keys were still in the ignition. The back door was open, and George's cane was propped against the car. Inside, investigators found George's jacket in a pile of kindling wood.
I think what it was, I think that he had a feeling that possibly it was going to be really cold, and maybe due to the memory impairment that he suffered due to this possible stroke, maybe he entered a mode where like he had to go and get, like wood because he wanted to start a fire back at home. So that's why he started gathering all the wood and putting it in his car. The reports are that he actually treated that car like his baby, basically. He would not do something like just put wood in the vehicle willy-nilly like he did. Which makes me think, like I said, I think he entered some sort of like a survival state where maybe he thought that it was going to be a bad day or whatever, and this is what he thought he needed to do. And it was during this act of getting the wood that basically he ended up possibly falling down a deep, not deep, but a steep incline where he ended up getting hurt.
But there was no sign of George Owens. Within a week, a local television station aired a missing persons bulletin about George. Several people in another part of Tennessee recognized his picture, and an unusual story began to unfold. On Monday, July 22nd, 3 hours after George was supposed to pick up his wife in Nashville, he was seen 80 miles away traveling along Route 13.
I'm wondering where he thought he was going. I'm wondering if maybe he was heading to like a place from his childhood. Maybe he had a desire to go back home. Maybe that's where he thought he still lived or whatever. I would love to know if there was any location that would have held a significance to him that was on the route that he was driving.
Okay, so how much dough?
Well, let's see, with labor...
At a filling station in Santa Fe, Tennessee, George stopped to have a flat tire repaired.
$60.
The owner recalled that George paid him in cash.
Okay. All right, sir.
Good luck.
And thank you. I'm a little bit turned around yet. I'm trying to get to Nolensville. Can you do how to get there?
Oh, Lobelville. Yeah, you go right down here to the second big intersection.
George's family believes that the service station owner may have misunderstood where George wanted to go and directed him towards Lobelville instead of towards George's home in Nolensville. No one knows what George was doing in that part of the state. Nolensville is approximately 30 miles southeast of Nashville. The service station is in Santa Fe, which is 50 miles southwest of Nashville. Lobelville is 60 miles due west of Santa Fe, more than 100 miles from George's home.
And this is, I think at this point, he was suffering from the stroke. If he did indeed have a stroke, like I said, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know exactly like what all of the effects of a stroke are. But if it does impact memory, I'm wondering if a stroke can impact memory, but still give the person decent use of their motor skills, I guess.
On the afternoon of Tuesday, July 23rd, the day after he stopped at the service station, George was seen in a market in downtown Lobelville.
I was working. I was the only one there. And he came in the store, and he wanted to know if we had any ice cream. And I told him yeah. And he asked me would I get him one. So I went and got him an ice cream, and he paid for it, and he went back out to his car.
I'm not sure what it is, but the actor who portrayed George Owens, he did an awesome job in this case. you actually could, at least for me, I'm not sure how it is for the other viewers, but for me, I can watch this and I'm thinking, oh my God, is that actually George Owens himself? This actor actually did an awesome job portraying George Owens.
A few minutes later, he came back in the store and he was pointing towards the cigarettes. And I asked him what kind he wanted, and he pointed towards some cigars. So I gave him a box of cigars and a box of matches. Okay, thank you.
Now, I used to love to dance. In my life, I used to have a good time. I just love it. But I can't find my life.
I think this is what, every time I hear this part right here where he goes, I can't seem to find my wife, I think that he was already in the throes of the memory of the issue with, mental cognizance. Like, is cognizance the right word? I think right here when he was having this interaction, I think that we were witnessing towards the end of George Owens.
I think he was disoriented. You don't know where she is? I mean, he seemed fine. But when he told me that he couldn't find his wife, he just, he was just so upset about that. Maybe she's at the clinic and you lost your way back down there, okay?
Mary Jo Phoebus called the local clinic to see if George's wife was there, but there were no patients who fit her description.
She wasn't there, sir. I'm sorry.
Now, the lady didn't know. I'm not upset at the lady at all. How would I have handled this? I would have honestly asked him if he felt okay. If he said, I'm a little bit confused, I would actually have him sit down. And I think it's because of the fact I work with students who have physical disabilities and whatnot. But I would ask him to sit down. I'd give him a complimentary drink and something to eat, and I would call the police. I'd let the police know that there's an individual down here who seems to be very confused, and he's having trouble locating his loved ones. Because I feel it's our duty to help those, especially the elderly. Basically, if there's signs that they are in trouble, I think we should help them. And it's pretty evident that George, he was actually having problems.
I wish that I had called somebody. If I had called somebody, then this might not would have happened.
Like like I said, I don't blame her. Hindsight is always 20/20. And the thing is, like, the lady, she was working she was doing her job. Sometimes when we're working, unless you're trained to keep an eye out for that sort of stuff, you're not really going to acknowledge it because you're doing your job. So I don't blame her. I just, like I said, I think it was just a perfect storm of everything that could have happened that did happen.
5 more days went by before George's car was discovered 12 miles from the market. An exhaustive search and rescue effort was organized, but there was no trace of George Owens. However, the investigation did turn up one significant clue. A clue which led authorities to believe that someone other than George may have been driving his car, and that a second vehicle may also have been present at the scene.
I don't think that this is what happened at all. I have watched several cases of people that have gone missing. And people will say, let's see, the two best cases I can point out Let's pull up the browser. Let's see here. The two best cases, let's see here. Oh God, I can't recall. Little Miss Unsolved Mysteries. I think that's what the case was. Lisa Marie Kimmel. Basically, what it was that Lisa Marie Kimmel, she disappeared, and over the span, I think it was a couple days, people remember seeing her car. It was a Honda CRX. Yep, there, CRX with a personalized plate of little. Here, let's just do this. Of little. Oh my God, seriously. It had a specialized plate of Little Miss. People remember seeing this car. Now, back in the time that this happened, 1988, a vehicle like the CRX was a nice vehicle, but it was also pretty unique compared to what was already out there. People were adamant they saw this car just zipping up and down the highway, and that they saw, I think they said they saw a woman in the vehicle. That's not really possible because during the time that they saw, that the people said they saw Lisa Marie in her car zipping up and down the highway, the car was actually buried. This guy here, Dale Wayne Eaton, he buried her car. It wasn't until 2002 that when they searched the property that they found the car buried. It said that, that she was held there basically as a hostage. I don't want to say hostage. She was held there against her will for 6 days before she was murdered. What I'm trying to say is that people's memories are not as reliant as we like to hope that they are. Sometimes that they will want to help, solve a case, and that they'll think that they remember something that's actually not there or not true. Another case that I remember was a case of Dan Wilson. Unsolved. Here's another tragic case. Basically, Dan Wilson, he had a blow up at his job, which was out of place for him because he was actually a decent person. He was a really nice guy and everything. Well, his coworkers and his boss told him, why don't you go take a break? Go take a break, and when you're feeling better, come on back to work. Everything will be fine. Dan decided to leave his home and go visit his family elsewhere. He never made it to his family's residence. They ended up finding his car abandoned on the side of the highway. The family went to take it back. I think they were taking it back to Spokane, where they started experiencing headaches. Come to find out, the car had an exhaust leak. Well, they believe that Dan Wilson had experienced some sort of medical event due to the constant exposure to the exhaust leak. In a town that was nearby, I think what they said was nearby where his car was found. I'm not sure exactly if it was nearby, but people at like a shelter, they said that they saw Dan come in several times. This is not possible because a few, see here. Let's go here. See here. A ranch worker found a human skull next to a creek approximately 6 miles from where Dan's car was found. I'm not saying that the people actively lied. I think that when they want to try and help somebody, that they will think that they have a memory of seeing either a person or a car, and that they can help by giving this information. When it comes to find out, it may be like a false memory. And that's ultimately what I think happened with George Owens. I think ultimately people wanted to help try and locate George Owens, and that they may have thought they saw this vehicle. I don't think this vehicle existed. I think ultimately what it was, like I said, I think ultimately we had a senior citizen who ended up suffering some sort of a medical incident, and it impacted his memory, and then shortly after it impacted his motor skills.
When we started the search, the closest person lived to the scene said that she saw the car go up the hill and a pickup was following, and the pickup stayed 15 to 20 minutes and it come back down the same road because that was the only way in or way out.
Sheriff's deputies were unable to determine who the pickup belonged to. They were equally baffled by what they found in and around George's car.
When we was looking at the car, it was several piles of wood around the car, which we didn't know, but later we found out that his habits was to go somewhere around his house in Nashville and pick up wood.
Eileen told me, she said there is no way George could have driven that car up there, much less put sticks in the back of it. I mean, she said that it was his baby. He kept that car perfect.
And that's why I say that I think he was operating on some sort of survival instinct. Maybe he thought that he was either nearby his house, or maybe for some reason he thought he was at his house, and that he was gathering wood. You just heard it right here, ladies and gentlemen. Reports are that he would gather wood. I think, like I said, I think whatever happened to George resulted in him doing this. I don't think anybody, hurt George. I don't think anybody killed George. I think he just had a tragic outcome to his life.
Never let, a scratch or a dent or anything, he would go get it fixed, much less put firewood in the back seat. So there's so many things that don't make any sense. Unfortunately, a lot of time's passed now, and I'm not sure how many clues are left, if any.
Authorities are still trying to piece together what happened to George Owens. Did he meet with foul play sometime after he left the market? Or did George suffer a minor stroke, become disoriented, and drive up the logging trail himself, only to wander helplessly into the woods? Sadly, Aileen Owens passed away in 1989, but these unanswered questions continue to haunt the rest of George's family.
I would never rest peaceful till I find out what happened to him. Because, I live a horrible life ever since he's been missing. I never give him up.
And this is why I like to make these type of videos. It's because the fact that this case has not been solved. And the fact now that this case is now basically lost. It's lost material unless you know where to find it. The fact that it's been considered lost means that it's going to be even more difficult to get it solved, because not many people are going to remember it. This is why I actively push for preservation of of video content. So stuff like this, what we are watching here, is not permanently lost to the sands of time.
I still believe he's still alive. Somewhere.
George Owens is 5 feet 11 inches tall and weighs 160 pounds. When last seen, he was wearing glasses, a gold watch, and a ruby ring. He would today be 87 years old. If you have any information, please contact the Perry County, Tennessee Sheriff's Department or write to Unsolved Mysteries, P.O. Box 11449.
Okay, and that was the case of George Owens. When we return, or when I return, we will look at the case wiki. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Let me fix my camera. There we go. This is the portion of the show where I go to the Unsolved Mysteries wiki and we see if there's been any updates to the case that we just watched. So here we are on the George Owens case. Real name, George Owens. No nicknames. The location was Nolensville, Tennessee. The date was July 22nd, 1985. George's occupation was he was an associate church minister. Date of birth was 1905. His height was recorded at 5 feet 11. God damn, he's taller than I am. Holy shit. Sorry about that. I don't have a short man complex at all. Nope. Weight, he was 160 pounds. He was married. Characteristics, he was an African-American male, white hair and brown eyes. George wore eyeglasses and used a cane to help him walk. He was last known to be wearing a gold watch and a ruby ring. Okay, so I'm going to kind of skip the details. We already know the details, so we will skip past that. Okay, some suspects. Some suspect that George was a victim of foul play. I don't. Mainly due to the condition of his car and the witness who reported seeing his car being followed by an unidentified pickup truck. Others suspected that he may have wandered off after suffering a stroke. That's where I kind of lay regarding this case. I believe he simply had a stroke. Extra notes. This case first aired as part of the August 19th, 1992 episode. It was also profiled on the Trail When Cold podcast. It was excluded from the Film Rise release of Robert Stack episodes. This is why I consider this case to be lost. It's because it has literally been struck from the major streaming platforms. That's why I released a video. I'm going to actually put it up here. It talked about where you can find these cases. So if it's still there, I'm not sure if it's still there, but like I said, I'm going to put it up there in the corner. Results: unsolved. In 1993, after no trace of George was found for 8 years, he was legally declared dead. His grandson received $33,000 from his estate. Sadly, his whereabouts remain unknown. Due to the passage of time, George is most likely deceased. And I don't want to sound like a jerk, because I know people are going to say, you sound like a jerk. I'm simply looking at it from the cold truth of reality. George Owens would have been over 120 years old. I'm sorry to say it, but, as much as I hope that he is alive, I have to be a realist and conclude that he is not. Okay, let's scroll down. Okay, don't we have a find a grave? I thought we had a find a grave for Mr. Owens. Apparently not. Okay, let's see if I can actually find one. Okay, find a grave, George Owens, obituaries. Wait, hold on. I think I may have actually found it. No, that's Florida. George Owens. Oh, this is Florida. And he was born in 1909. Okay, let's try it this way. George Owens, 1905. Nolensville. Let's just see if anything shows up. North America, Tennessee. I don't know what county Nolensville is in. Okay, let's try. What county is Nolensville, Tennessee in? Williamson County, Tennessee. Williamson County. Here we go. I just literally just wanted to find the poor guy. Nolensville. Search. Okay, no match found. So I guess it's sadly, I'm guessing that this is pretty much as far as this is going to take us, ladies and gentlemen. I was actually hoping that we could at least, take a look and see where he, where, they made, they put his plot, but it looks like we're not going to be able to, we don't know. But yeah, so that is it for this portion of the video. Oh, there it goes. Stay tuned and I'll be right back with the episode information. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is the portion of the show where I go and look up the episode information. So let's do this, do that, and then we'll do this. I used my big bird brain to locate the exact episode that this case was on, and actually, I kind of stumbled my way around. I'm going to be honest, I kind of stumbled my way around. I didn't want to record myself looking like a jackass trying to do it, So I decided during the break, I would quickly look it up. Here it is. It took some time, but I found it. Okay, so this was episode 127. It is actually part of season 4. Oh, sorry about that. It's actually part of season 4. I'm not sure when. I've always been kind of confused when it comes to these episode designations. I'm not sure if they mean episode, because I don't think there's 127 episodes in this season. I just don't think there is. Let's see. This season started off with episode 93. And it ended with episode 129. So I'm guessing that these have to be like overall, like this was the 127th episode overall of the series. And honestly, this is actually a pretty small episode. Wow, it's not as small as episode 128. Wow, they only had, let's see here. It seems like for a while, we were in a little bit of a drought here, ladies and gentlemen. This episode only had 3 cases. The first case that they have is the Lost Loves case of George Owens, which is why you're all here today. The second case is an update to a murder case of Bill Henderson. I don't recall this case. Let's take a look at Bill Henderson. I may remember if I see a face, but it takes a long time for me to remember every single name. Bill Henderson, that sounds familiar. Isn't this the one? Yeah, isn't this one where the 2 hitchhikers? Hold on. Isn't this guy? I think he had like the suspect had like blonde cornrows or whatever. Yeah, it's this guy. Okay, so this is the guy I remember. This is the one where the guy here, he killed. Oh, Lawrence Tutt is his name. He killed Bill Henderson, took his truck. He then picked up 2 hitchhikers, and then he let the hitchhikers. Oh, I don't think he let them off. They parked at I think a truck stop or something. The 2 hitchhikers went in and said, "Hey, this guy up here, He's fucking nuts. We think he killed somebody. Well, they then told the hitchhikers to call the police using the payphone. Of course, they couldn't use their phone. Go use the payphone. They called the police, and I think that they were trying to tell the police that the car was stolen or the truck was stolen. And at that time, the police had no record of the stolen truck. And the guy's like, really? Not stolen? But this has to be the truck, you know? So, but basically that's the case of Bill Henderson, which is also a sad case. Thankfully, they got the piece of shit that did it. And then the other case we have is the murder of Doug Johnson. Now, if I remember correctly, this is tied to what I love to refer to as the octopus conspiracy. I wish I had like an echoing effect. That would have been fucking awesome. But anyway, the octopus is supposed to be, it's like supposed to be like an organization, if I understood correctly, that was like a bunch of high profile people. Think Jeffrey Epstein, but back for like the late 80s and 90s. Let's see here. I think that's what this is. Oh, there's no octopus. I thought this was part of the octopus. Or maybe just octopus? Okay, maybe I was wrong. Wait, hold on. Reporter. Wait, was there a reporter? Charles Morgan. Okay, hold on. Okay, Doug Williams is tied to the Charles Morgan case. Really? I could have sworn that this was all tied to the octopus. Like I said, what I was saying, well, basically the octopus is like it's like an organization, and I guess that the whole belief is that the octopus actually has their tentacles, even like in government activities. Let's see here. Maybe I can find, let's see, the octopus. The octopus unsolved mysteries. They don't have it anymore. Okay, here, let's go back. Because a reporter. Oh, Don Dever. Wait, why isn't it not? There's no link for it. But basically, Don Devereaux, he was like investigating, and I think he was the one that was coming on, like, he was like investigating. He was getting close to the whole, the conspiracy regarding the octopus. I know I sound like a fucking nut job when I talk about it, but it's all here. It's right here. It's right here. Oh my God. It's like that meme of the guy. I don't know what the meme is about or what show, but there's this guy standing like in front of a wall and has a bunch of pictures of like red lines and everything. It's like, you know. Let's see, let's see here. Wish that it's like that they took out the mention of the Danny Casolaro. Maybe that. Let's check Danny Casolaro. One of these guys. It was tied to the fucking octopus. I'm not crazy. I'm telling you guys. I'm not crazy. There is such a thing as an octopus. there is truly a thing here. Let's see. The octopus. Yes. Yes. I found it. I found it. Oh God, I'm not fucking nuts after all. I'm not nuts. I told you I'm not nuts. If I swear to God, if we hit this case or we got to this profile and there was no octopus, I'd be like, okay, I'm guessing the octopus is on to me because I'm like the last one who remembers the octopus. But basically, it dealt with U.S. officials, organized crime members, and intelligence agents, and he called the network the Octopus. So basically, that's, you know, we kind of went on a little bit of a journey there. Okay, but let's see here. So those were those were sadly the only 3 cases of this episode of Unsolved Mysteries. Due to the case of George Owens being what I call lost content, it's not on YouTube, it's not on Amazon, it's not on streaming. So there's no real digital episode to compare this to. But yeah, so that is it for the episode information regarding George Owens. That is that for this installment of Unsolved Mysteries Commentary. If anything, I hope that one of these days that we can get this case solved. If anything, the family of George Owens deserves to know what happened to their loved one. I gave you my theory about how I believe that this was a stroke that George had, and ultimately it sadly impacted his memory. It impacted his memory, which led to issues with motor control, and I think personally he had an accident, and sadly no one was around to help him. However, some people, there is a case that people believe, that George met with foul play. So what happened to George Owens? Ultimately, it's up to you, the viewer, to make that decision. Do you think it was a stroke? Do you think he met with foul play? Where does the truth lie? Ultimately, that is up to you, the viewer, to make that decision. I'm just here to give you some commentary and enjoy a case from the golden age of Unsolved Mysteries. But that is all said and done, ladies and gentlemen. Next up, I have a case that upsets me to no end. And when you see the still image, you're going to know what the case this is. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1. That's right. We're going there, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be talking about, or we're going to be looking at the case of Jim Burnside. Real bad dude that this guy was. Not only is this guy a bad dude, he is a prime example of this justice system failing. Here is the pre-show promo for this case.
When Annette Schophocker was a lonely teenager, she fell in love with a man twice her age. It was a storybook romance which ended in a flash of violence. Now the man of Annette's dreams is wanted for murder.
So this gives you a little bit of idea what you can expect. This guy, this animal, he stabbed his, I think she was his ex-wife at the time. I'm not sure if they were still married or if they divorced. He stabbed Annette, that was her name, not once, not twice, not 3 times. He stabbed her 15 fucking times. Reports are stating that she was dead most likely before the halfway point of all the stabbings. That means this poor lady died around the seventh time that she was stabbed. This animal kept stabbing her. He kept stabbing her. Not only is he a piece of shit for that, he even threatened his own kids. He treated Annette, the woman who gave him kids, he treated her like a piece of steak. It's going to be mentioned in the case itself. A piece of meat, let's just say. He treated her like a piece of meat. Even after she was dead, he kept stabbing the poor lady. What did the justice system do? Did they decide to give this animal the death sentence that he was so begging for? No, they gave him life in prison with the possibility of parole in 25 years. Need I go through this again? He stabbed her not once or twice or 3 times. 15 fucking times he stabbed her. 15 times he stabbed her. He should have been fucking hanging by his insides until he stopped twitching. They gave him life in prison. What about Annette? What about Annette? Does she have life? This is one of the many reasons why I say this justice system has utterly failed. We're going to be talking more about this case, and we're going to see this case in its entirety on the next installment of Unsolved Mysteries Commentary. My name is Jeff, aka GCurse. Wishing you all a great day. Stay safe, everybody. Peace out.